What's up, Amazon sellers? Hopefully that gong isn't on a loop. I was just trying to do something to get the segue down a little bit. What is happening? Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the twice weekly, bi-weekly, whatever, Amazon news and live Q&A show. We're going to share some e-commerce news with you, share some stats maybe, the occasional business maxim, and of course, all along the way, we're going to answer your questions. Anything you got at any time during the show, pop it into the chat, and I will do my best to get you an answer. If you got a question about retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, wholesale, or Keepa quandary, drop it in the chat, and I will semi-weekly. Thank you, Tim. Let's go with that, just so we can say it's settled. Yes, semi-weekly show. Semi-weekly, and it's the final solo show. If you're new here, my name is Chris Rasick, and I am your not usually solo mio host. I'm out of adjectives. I didn't have time to look up one for today, but normally it's me and my co-host Chris Grant. Chris Grant is, I believe, as we speak, coming close to wrapping up the final day 14 of 14 of the latest OA challenge. It's been, they get better every time. There's more AI. The best thing about taking them over and over again, not only do you learn something, because you can only keep so many thoughts in the front of your mind. So he always reminds me of some sort of sourcing technique or something that I've kind of let slip through the cracks. But he adds to it. He keeps the curriculum fresh. He added some AI tips and tricks, new tools that he's discovered or replaced. It's always a worthwhile thing. So he will be back on Wednesday. Looking forward to having my co-pilot back. A little bit smoother with the controls. I don't do it that much, so but I'm doing my best. So I loaded up again with news. If you weren't here on Wednesday, chances are you view from Twitter, and Twitter wouldn't connect. So I loaded up on news again today, just in case I couldn't get Twitter to connect, and it was just me and a few dozen people over on YouTube, where I had to listen to myself talk more than I'm comfortable with. Just kind of spitting news stuff out. So I prepared for it in advance. I loaded up on a bunch of stories. I do have a business law this Sunday as well. I told you last Sunday, if you tuned in, I want to keep that streak alive. I really enjoy it, if for no other reason. I know Chris enjoys it. He had the streak running where he was bringing a concept, a maxim or a law, something high level that applies to our businesses. I don't know. I think it's neat. We'll see if the viewership drops when I get to that part. that'll tell me if you enjoy it also, or whether it's just me. So questions, like I said, anytime, fire them in there. I will do my best. It's Eden. What do we got here? What is your take on the country of origin Amazon email? A lot of listings going down because of the requirement. What is the thing with? I'm trying to remember I want to try to remember the reason that this didn't apply. I remember this coming up, and for some reason I want to say that I remember in my mind I have it not being as big a deal as it seemed at first. Let me just jog my memory a little bit here. Short version, Amazon has been requiring country of origin on all product listings since early 2021, but enforcement ramped up hard about late 2024. Emails threatening to restrict cross-border sales for listings missing the COO by December 31st, 2024. Many U.S. sellers got the email too, even though the stated reason was EU/UK customs compliance. The general consensus on the forums is that if you only sell domestically in the US, the practical impact is minimal. Okay, so that's what I was thinking. Yeah, I'm in the US and I only sell in the US, so I didn't really pay attention to it. Like when it first came through, I saw it. I know everybody got a little alarmed about it, but soon realized that it doesn't apply to me selling on the US marketplace. So don't really have a take. My apologies, Eden. All right, let's jump into the news. Fire off the questions. Anything else you got? I'll do my best. In the meantime, Lego just became bigger than Mattel, Hasbro, and Spin Master combined. This is a fun one. Lego just dropped their 2025 annual report, and we'll give you the headline first. $12.9 billion in revenue. That's up 12% year over year. Net profit jumped 21% to $2.6 billion in net profit. It's incredible. Here's another stat that should stop you in your tracks. Lego's revenue is now larger than Mattel, Hasbro, and Spin Master combined. Those three did about $12.16 billion combined. One privately held Danish toy company, no shareholders to answer to, no quarterly earnings calls, just quietly lapped the entire publicly traded toy industry. And their own guidance for 2025 was only single-digit growth. They smashed their expectations, blew right by it. So what should Amazon sellers care about Lego earnings? Well, there's a few reasons, in my opinion. The first one, Lego is the single most recognizable brand in toy arbitrage. Maybe that's debatable, but they're up there. If you source toys at all, you've touched some Lego at some point. Their consumer sales grew 16% last year. That's double the 7% growth rate of the overall toy market. That means demand is pulling away from other toy brands and concentrating in one direction towards Lego. For sourcing purposes, that's maybe a signal, right? When a brand's growing this fast, retail stores order more inventory. They run more promotions. They create more clearance opportunities when sets rotate out, or clearance opportunities when they decide to expand what they dedicate on Lego. That's going to remove something, another toy brand that's going to need clearanced out. Second, they launched a record 868 SKUs in 2025, with roughly half being brand new. That's a massive catalog refresh. New sets replacing old sets means retirement waves. That's a whole market that you can learn, or a whole cycle that you can learn. Shout out to the toy investor who has that down pretty good. Yeah, and if you know anything about Lego arbitrage, you know retired sets are where the real margin lives. More new SKUs going in means more existing SKUs coming out, right? We could pay attention to what's disappearing from the shelves, and that's going to equal money. Third reason, look at what happened to the competition. Mattel was basically flat. Barbie sales dropped 7%. Spin Master posted a net loss and took a $229 million goodwill impairment. Hasbro's revenue growth was almost entirely driven by Magic the Gathering, not their actual toy brands. Their consumer products and entertainment segments both declined 4%. So here's what that tells you. The toy market, it's not shrinking. It grew 7% overall, but the growth was concentrated in certain areas, fewer brands, and Lego's kind of eating everyone's lunch. So if you're sourcing toys and you're not prioritizing Lego, kind of swimming against the current a little bit, right? Contrarian angle, just for the heck of it. Lego's 2026 guidance is back to single-digit growth. Maybe they're conservative. It was single-digit growth for 2025 as well. And they turned around and put up 12%. So either it's conservative or they're seeing something that makes them pump the brakes. They're spending heavily on sustainability. They hit 50% renewable and recycled content in their brick materials. And they're continuing to buy out or build out supply chain and digital. That's a company investing in durability, not trying to squeeze short-term numbers. For sellers, takeaway is pretty simple. Lego demand isn't slowing down, right? The catalog's turning over fast, and the rest of the toy aisle is struggling, or at least not doing quite as well, right? If you're doing any kind of toy sourcing, this is the brand that's pulling away from the pack. You may want to look at spending the money to ungate it if you're one of the unfortunate ones that got gated in it. One more thing, Lego is privately held. There's no stock to buy. There's no ticker symbol, but analysts peg their enterprise value north of $30 billion. They have 33,000 employees, 1,112 retail stores across 54 countries, and they were named the world's most reputable company for the third year running. Playing a bit of a different game than everyone else, right? And that's something we should keep in mind as arbitragers. So, all right, well, what do we got? Let's check for questions before I get to more news. AMZ with me. Amazon a couple of years ago talked me into allowing my FBA inventory to be available in Canada and Mexico. Yep, they changed the rules for listings recently, and because I can't edit the listings in these countries, I recently got my Canada store closed down. Should I care that my Canada store is closed? Overall, my answer is maybe, probably, possibly. I went to great lengths and many tries to figure out how to shut down my Canada and Mexico stores. It's interesting that you said Amazon talked you into allowing FBA inventory. Amazon just kind of automatically enrolled me. But what happened was the inventory that I would source for the US marketplace were subject to different rules in Canada. I do a lot in health and beauty, and Canada has very different rules for those types of products. I was amazed at the amount of items that Canada requires a prescription to buy that are actually just over-the-counter stuff that we can buy. It was stuff I was picking up at places like Ollie's and Walmart and stuff, just stuff right in the aisle. A lot of that stuff requires a prescription. And I didn't know. The fact I didn't know didn't change the fact that I would get policy violations, and my Canadian account health score was way low. Like, I was taking a whole lot of hits. And it may be anecdotal. I don't know that I got any actual proof. But the concern was, if your account gets in trouble in Canada, that could possibly affect your US account. So once I heard that, even anecdotally, that was enough for me. So I cleared out everything in my account health dashboard on the Canadian site, and went about trying to figure out how to close both Canada and Mexico, because I wasn't getting anything close to enough sales, enough of a sales boost to justify the risk to my account health. Until I find out that the account health is truly separate, I have no interest in selling there. So you may want to clear up what you can. Maybe fight whatever you can. Anything no impact, maybe clear those out, and then look into the steps to close Mexico, since Canada's already closed. Might be worth opening up a case and simply asking them, saying, "Hey, this is what happened. I'm not interested in selling in Canada any longer. If you hadn't closed it, I would have closed it myself. What are the long-term impacts? What should I look out for?" Just try to get some information from them that way. Opening a case is probably what I would do. Hey, Chris, good to see you. Luke, don't lie to me, man. Glad to see your mug. No, you are not. Is the war going to have an effect on Amazon business? Yeah, we covered that. I had a piece Wednesday on the show. I don't know if yeah, I do have a piece. I'll go over that. In fact, we can actually let me go to that piece now. I'll do it quickly since we covered it on Wednesday, but we didn't broadcast on Twitter because of the connection issues. So yeah. Yeah, the war in Iran, it may have effect on your cost of goods, right? Not going to do a geopolitical play-by-play here, right? You can get that from cable news. But what we should talk about is what the conflict actually means for our Amazon businesses, and especially in the next 30 to 90 days, because it could have a real impact on the supply chain. Here's the short version. The Strait of Hormuz is effectively closed. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I haven't heard it pronounced on the news. I've only read the word. Has been since early March, after the U.S. and Israel launched strikes on Iran on February 28th. Iran retaliated by threatening and attacking ships trying to transit the strait. Tanker traffic dropped to nearly zero. Commercial vessels are being fired on as of this week. Iran's new supreme leader publicly stated that the closure should continue as a pressure tool. So what does a shipping lane between Iran and Oman matter to an Amazon seller in Ohio or Texas? Because about 20% of the world's oil supply flows through that strait, and roughly 27% of the world's maritime crude oil trade passes through it. When that gets cut off, oil prices spike. When oil prices spike, fuel costs spike. And the fuel costs touch every single link in the supply chain that we all depend on, right? We could break down where this hits sellers. First, you have freight costs. Container carriers like Maersk, MSC, Hapag-Lloyd, and CMA CGM have all suspended operations through the strait and rerouted vessels around the southern tip of Africa. That's going to add weeks to transit times. Second, energy costs. This isn't just about fuel for ships. Rising oil prices flow into everything. I'm talking warehouse electricity, last mile delivery fuel surcharges, packaging material costs, since plastics are petroleum derived, and even air cargo pricing. About 85% of polyethylene exports from the Middle East go through the Strait of Hormuz. Polyethylene is in your poly bags, it's in your packaging, it's your bubble wrap, and all that stuff's about to get more expensive. Third, air cargo. If you use air freight for fast turn inventory or time-sensitive issues from your suppliers, capacity through major Middle Eastern hubs like Dubai and Doha are severely constrained. Airspace restrictions and canceled flights are already creating bottlenecks. Apparel shipments from major retailers were stranded last week when flights were canceled in the Middle East. If the big brands are getting hit, smaller sellers are relying on that same cargo and that their networks, they're going to feel it too. Fourth, this one most sellers won't think about, even fertilizer. About a third of global fertilizer trade transits through that strait. Fertilizer prices have already jumped from $475 per metric ton to $680. That feeds into food prices if you sell grocery. Feeds into consumer spending behavior, which feeds into whether your customers have discretionary income to spend on the products you're selling on Amazon. It's a second order effect, but it is real, right? So what can you actually do about it? Look at your supply chain. If any of the products you're sourcing are shipped through the Middle East, if you can figure that out, or Asia, or anywhere that routes through the strait, you need to understand the new timeline. Suppliers quoted lead times from 3 months ago probably don't apply anymore, right? Check your inventory levels. Now, this isn't necessarily a negative, right? There were positives when the dock workers went on strike out in LA. Everything coming from the west on the left coast of the U.S. It caused inventory issues. There were stock issues for sure, but people who had stock, people who had inventory, people who were able to plan ahead if possible. It was a pretty short lead time, but people who had the inventory were now able to charge more. So there is opportunity in this. But to answer your question, will it affect our Amazon businesses? Quite likely, yes. positive and negative, depending on how you're positioned, right? So, Chris, just be careful with Googling Lego retirement dates. I was sourcing a Lego one day, and Gemini told me that every single one was retired in 2025. I ended up buying a ton based on faulty info. Interesting. Yeah, so we need to be careful with our sources for that retirement income. I know Toy Investor has a newsletter, and he has resources. We've interviewed him on the pod. His info is great. The guy's making so much money just buying and holding. He has awesome operation and really good info too. So if you're into it, you may want to look at the information that he provides. Great follow on Twitter too. Eden, I'm receiving a lot of inventory lab. The field type for the attribute unit count. The required minimum is 1 value. Any ideas on how to troubleshoot that? Yeah, and Chris has the answer here. Edit the item and save. You don't need to add or fix anything with editing. Just edit and save. Thank you, Chris. Dank Melon, I'm looking to get a prep center. What would you guys recommend? In general, starting from the very top, the recommendation is to get one in a sales tax-free state. There are 4, I believe 4, right? Oregon, Montana, Delaware, New Hampshire. Is there 5? Why do I feel like I need to say 5? If there is a 5th one, I don't remember which one that is. That would be my tip. It's not an all or nothing thing, right? That you can still the other prep centers that are in sales tax states, they tend to offer cheaper prep, so there is a bit of a break even, so it can be done, and it's all about prep centers are all about taking your time and giving it back to you, and kind of letting the low value tasks. Well, Chuck, yeah, Alaska, but we can't ship to Alaska, so that's effectively a non-starter. But thank you for giving me the 5th one. So it can be done. It's all about how much you're going to make with the time savings of not having to prep your inventory. So that's the general one. Unfortunately, as far as actual prep center, if you're looking for an actual recommendation of a prep center, I don't have one that is accepting clients right now. There are possibly a few of them. If you want to reach out, make sure you check Chris Grant on cleartheshelf.com. He has a expansive prep center article that he wrote. Hasn't been updated. It is a couple years old. So there may be prep centers on there that aren't in operation anymore, and there may be new ones that didn't make the list. However, it has listings in, I believe, almost every state, at least continental U.S. It'll have, I believe it has recommendations, or has not recommendations. It has listings in, I think, 48 states. So start there, clear the shelf / actually just go to clear the shelf and then hit the search bar and look for prep center. It's a massive article, has contact information for everyone on that list. I mean, we're talking hundreds of prep centers. So I would check that out and start there, and just start calling around. Make sure, as far as once you have a prospect, another tip is to make sure you ask plenty of questions. It's a pretty important step in the process. You want to find out, not only pricing, you want to find out if it's an all done price, just one out the door price, or Are they charging for bubble wrap? Are they charging for boxes? What's their multi-pack pricing if you dabble in that at all? Do they do optimized shipping? That could save you money overall. It may bring some prep centers into contention that wouldn't otherwise be at face value. You want to find out how they communicate. Is it through email, or are they on Discord or Slack or WhatsApp? That can make a difference. There's a lot of strong opinions on preferred methods of communication. A lot of people don't like email. It's not quite fast enough. If there's an issue, hey, 4 bottles of this shampoo are leaking, what do you want to do? Or, you have, sometimes there's a timing issue with returns that you may need to know as soon as possible, that sort of stuff. So find out about that, and find out what their process is. Is it, do they do a certain day of the week where no matter what you have, your stuff's shipped on Thursdays? Or is it a unit threshold? Is it a certain day and or a unit count? As soon as you get 200 units, they automatically ship. Is that the trigger point? You want to find out what the trigger is for them to actually prep and ship for you. Yeah, I think that about covers it. All right. Yeah, it's a good point, Chris. There are a lot of websites out there too, but the do not checklist and now includes Gemini. So thank you for that info. Any specific reputable prep centers you could point me towards? I remember back in the day from an older podcast, you guys noted the importance of contracts in case of Section 3. Yeah, it's a nice thing to have. You just talk to your prep center. Here's the thing. Both Chris and I have contracts with our prep center. And if anyone from Amazon is listening right now, plug your ears, earmuffs, Amazon. Those contracts weren't in place until after we got our Section 3. So, if you have a relationship, just, you can use AI, use a Chat GPT or a Claude or something, just work up a basic services agreement in place. It just adds a level of legitimacy. But prep centers, I've used Network Prep in Oregon. I know, I think Luke at one point in time used Proven Prep. They're also in Oregon. I think he had positive things to say. Joel at Zero Tax Prep Center in Delaware is who I'm using currently, doing the most volume. That's the highest volume prep center that I use. I also use Northeast Prep Solutions, NEPS. I always call them just NEPS. I've checked multiple times. She's still not accepting new people, but you can of course reach out, try to get on a waiting list with any of these people. I think that's it as far as personal experience. So, Sleekius, hello, Chris. Is it okay for a new seller to buy a lead list, knowing that most of the leads will be gated products? Yeah, I think so. And I run a lead list, right? So say I'm biased, I am. But I had a positive opinion of lead lists even before I started a lead list. And I jumped on one as a new seller. There's something to be said. It's not only just the leads, and you could actually make a really strong argument that the leads themselves from the lead list provider are the most important part of that transaction of what you're paying for. As a new seller, I checked and found lead list providers that were respected. I checked with Chris Grant because I had learned, I'd taken the OA challenge, the very first one, and I was like, okay, I'm getting the hang of this. but I needed more pattern recognition. And that's one of the best things that a lead list provides for you. Because one way or another, most of a good lead list providers is going to be a seller also, active seller, because it's important to know what's going on, what you can do, what you can't do, what you shouldn't do. Most of them are in some capacity selling, or at least one of the partners or something like that, right? And so you have somebody with experience and a network, even if they have VAs, right? So it's being filtered through the parameters of an experienced seller. So you're going to get more examples of what good leads look like, right? Because let's be honest, as a new seller, you're going through a whole lot of duds. I talk to a ton of new sellers that just get so frustrated. I can't tell you how many messages, in the communities that I see. It's like, I sourced all day and I didn't find anything. And most of the time you find out all day meant 45 minutes. That's not the point. Regardless of that, the experience, you have to do so many reps, right? And you start questioning yourself, right? You're just looking, it's just no after no after no after no. So just for balance, if nothing else, it helps to start seeing some ones that are yeses, right? You see some yeses from your lead list, like, okay, they like this one. This is a good lead. They shared it with me. I paid for this one. How does that compare to what I'm looking at here? And so you'll start to recognize the patterns faster, right? And then on top of that, the fact you think, okay, I'm going to be gated in a bunch of stuff as a new seller. Well, there's so many opportunities for every single lead, right? Every single lead they show you, there's a brand that most likely has other ASINs, other products on the Amazon catalog. You can go filter through those. Am I gated for all of these? If you are gated for all that entire brand, you can start assessing how many profitable products they have on the catalog. So now you can make a determination, a smarter investigation on whether you should ungate that brand. That's happened plenty of times where it's like, God, there's just so many of this brand. They want 100 units, but I have a database full. And even if you're gated for them, you could source these, put them on a spreadsheet, everything from one brand, have a tab for different brands. Once you get to a big, long list of profitable items from a brand, now it's time to have a serious conversation about whether you should ungate that brand and just take on the cost of 10 units or 100 units, maybe more. Maybe there are certain brands, bigger brands, that you could justify buying 200-300 items to ungate because that's what's required. On top of that, every lead from a lead list has most likely other sellers that are also selling that lead, right? So you get a positive pattern recognition. It's a good lead from the person that you're paying money, the person that you trust to provide leads for you. They said it's good. There are 5 or 6 other sellers on that listing already. Those sellers said this is a good lead. Now, granted, you don't know the buy cost, but the lead list provider told you what their buy cost is, what you can get it for. Usually half the time gives you a coupon code to lower that buy cost, right? So you're in the game, you know how to get it and make it profitable. You can look at the stores of those 5 or 6 other sellers. If they like that same lead that your lead list provided you, chances are you may like some other leads that they have already bought as well. And now you're going to proliferate that. You're going to be able to look through their catalog. Maybe each one of those sellers has 100 ASINs on their marketplace or on their storefront. If there are 5 or 6 of them, that's 500 to 600 leads that you're now rabbit trailing off of. You can pick something, look at the storefront analysis tool in RevSeller. SellerAmp has something similar, either tool you use, and now start looking at what brands they have in their storefront. Now you can start finding the ones that you're ungated in already. Now a gated lead has turned into potentially dozens of ungated leads. And then it's just a process of finding a buy cost that makes it profitable. You could turn that into a ton of inventory. So long-winded, sorry. Answer is yes. Luke still uses proven. Yep. And I believe positive things. It's positive that you're still using them. So there's a clue there. I don't let us know if they're still accepting new clients. Abdul, the advice you're going to give to me as an Amazon seller, I want to start Amazon FBA in the US, but I'm confused about whether I got a sale or not. Will you advise me on something? I can try. Is there, was there, if there's a question in there, if you could rephrase it, but yeah, I'll try to help you with whatever it is. Luke says, I think lead lists are great for starting out. Helped me figure out what good leads look like. Yeah. I've been subscribed to OA Leads 24/7 for a couple of years. Yeah. Luke's my, he's been my A1 from day one. I've got a couple that have been there since day one. Luke's been day one on both of my lists, actually. Yep, rabbit trail, starting points, retailer IDs, promo sales. Yeah, you can take the promo codes for a store. Now you can go and see what other categories, what other things on that retailer's site that code is also going to apply to. It's good advice. Chris says there are some lead lists that cater to newbies. Most are garbage. Fair warning. You do need to find the good ones. Yeah, that's true regardless of who the lead list caters to. Yeah, it's all about rabbit trailing, not using it as a shopping list. Absolutely. Let's see. All right, and that's link to my lead list, oaleads247.com. It's weekend only, just Saturday and Sunday. I don't want to work that hard. I don't want to do Monday through Friday. Although I can't even make that joke anymore because we have the Q1 leads. So I do leads in the Q1 group with Chris Grant. So that is my Monday through Friday. So somehow I went from only wanting to do leads on the weekends, just work 2 days a week on leads, to now doing 7 days a week. So I did it wrong. So, but yeah, the OA Leads 24/7 is weekends only. It works as a part-time, like a cost savings, just a part-time list, which may be good. You can make an argument that that's a nice way to get some experience with lead lists as a newer seller. You could take a discount. Or, I mean, the way I did it was I had a Monday through Friday list. And as a new seller, I got kind of sad when Friday rolled around and I knew I wouldn't get any fresh leads until Monday. I was just left to my own devices, right? And I didn't trust myself. I didn't have the confidence back then. So that kind of gave me the idea. I was like, man, why isn't there a weekend list that just does Saturday and Sunday that you could plug in to your Monday and Friday list and make it so you got leads 7 days a week? So it's also why I run a company called OA Leads 24/7 that only does leads twice a week, because it's supposed to be a supplement. I don't know. Jury's out on whether that was a good naming convention or not. I did miss your question. Yeah, I'm sorry. I saw that Vorys has threatened to sue me for selling DeWalt. How serious do you think they are? I see so many sellers on DeWalt listings. Yeah. Okay. So if Seller Basics, or if there are any Amazon lawyers listening, they're not going to like my personal strategy. However, as a general rule, if I didn't sign for it, if they're not serious enough to make me sign a certified letter to take on the cost to verify that I received it, If I didn't sign for it, I never received it. And that's I've seen too many law shows on TV, but feels like that's reasonable doubt right there, right? Like if you can't prove that I saw it, the reason they send it certified is they need to have proof. Like, is this your signature? Yeah, it is. Okay, then you received it. That signature means that the delivery person handed it to you. You acknowledged receipt of the letter. If they don't do that, they can't even pony up the money to send something certified. How serious do you think they are? Now, that's not perfect, right? But that's kind of where my risk tolerance falls. Now, Vorys has a low batting average as far as actually doing something. It's not zero, I'll tell you that, but it's very, very low. Most of the time they're charging their brand customers, hundreds of dollars per hour just to send form letters, with the same cases, the same trying to talk down first sale doctrine, and that first sale doctrine doesn't apply, and same exact wording, just the brand name is different in all these letters. And first sale doctrine does count, but we can argue about that another time. So, yeah, so it depends. They may send you, I don't know if that second letter, is it the second or third letter where they tell you to start saving information for litigation purposes because they're planning to sue you. I think that's mostly a tactic also. But at that point, I start paying attention because the one thing, regardless of risk tolerance, some people may bail at the first letter, some people bail at the second letter, some people ignore it completely. But the main point is calculate how many units you have of DeWalt. How many units do you have in Amazon right now? What's the profit on that? If it gets to the point where you start questioning whether this might be serious, ask yourself if that total amount of profit is worth losing your selling account for good, right? Is that worth risking all future profits for this pocket of DeWalt profit? When I get to the point where I frame it like that, the answer leads me to close and delete the listing, and I just put a removal order in for the remaining inventory. I'll sell it on eBay or whatever once it gets serious. So hope that helps. All right, Luke, thank you. Luke has that's the website for my weekend leads. So, oh yeah, and Luke mentions, you want to find out when talking about prep centers, find out what their minimum unit is. There's some wonky things that go on with the minimum amount of units that you have to send in. You want to make sure you're able to meet that comfortably without putting yourself under any strain from a capital perspective, So, all right. So keep the questions coming. Let's keep going with the news. We're 45 minutes in. All right. So next story that I prepped for you guys is Amazon just sued an AI shopping bot off its platform. And I got some reasons that we might want to pay attention as sellers. So a federal judge in San Francisco just blocked Perplexity's AI browser that they call Comet from making purchases on Amazon. It's a preliminary injunction, meaning that it's temporary while the full case plays out. But the judge found Amazon is likely to win on the merits, and the implications for sellers might be bigger than we realize. So let me back up a little bit. Perplexity is an AI company valued at about $20 billion currently. And they built a browser called Comet that has an AI agent baked in. You could tell it to go buy me the best rated wireless mouse under $30 on Amazon. And what it would do is log into your Amazon account. It would browse, compare, and click buy now on your behalf. No human eyes on the listing, no human scrolling through the search results, no human seeing the ads. There's the issue, right? That last part, that's the key. Amazon sued Perplexity back in November, and the core argument wasn't really about customer experience or security, even those were in the complaint. The real issue, the one Amazon spelled out in its filing, is that AI agents bypass the advertising system. When a bot generates ad impressions instead of a human, Amazon has to detect and filter those out before billing advertisers. That means building new detection systems, expensive, spending engineering hours, expensive, protecting the integrity of the ad platform that now generates tens of billions of dollars in revenue for Amazon. Think about what Amazon has been building for the last 3 years, right? Sponsored products, sponsored brands, sponsored display, DSP. The entire flywheel runs on human eyeballs seeing those ads and clicking on them. If AI agents start doing the shopping, those eyeballs disappear. And Amazon's ad revenue, which is, by the way, the highest margin business that they operate, that's going to go with them. So here's the detail that tells you how seriously Amazon took this. They warned Perplexity at least 5 times starting in November of 2024. They implemented a technical block in August of 2025. Perplexity pushed a software update within 24 hours to get around it. Amazon sent a cease and desist directly to Perplexity's CEO with a Monday 5 p.m. deadline. Perplexity responded by publishing a blog post titled, "Bullying is Not Innovation." Amazon filed a lawsuit that same day. So that's not a company sending a friendly heads up. That's a company defending a core revenue model, right? Here's where it gets interesting for us. The court ordered Perplexity to destroy any Amazon data that it collected through comment. And the judge drew a line that matters. The user gave Perplexity permission to access their account, but Amazon did not. User consent doesn't equal platform authorization. That distinction could shape how every AI shopping agent interacts with Amazon going forward. Now, Amazon has already blocked dozens of AI agents from its platform. That includes OpenAI's ChatGPT. Meanwhile, they're investing in their own tools. Surprise, surprise. Rufus for shopping assistance, Buy for Me for agent-style purchasing. Patterns familiar, right? Amazon builds the walled garden, controls the tools on the inside, and keeps the ad revenue flowing through its own pipes. For sellers, 2 things to watch, in my opinion. First, advertising dollars. They're safer now if you do any PPC. If third-party AI bots were shopping Amazon at scale, your sponsored products campaigns would be generating bot impressions that you're paying for. Amazon fighting to keep those bots off the platform is basically Amazon protecting the value of the ad system that we buy into. Second, this is a preview of what agentic commerce is actually going to look like in practice. Everyone's hyping AI shopping agents as the future, but the future depends on who controls the checkout, right? Amazon just made it clear if you want to operate on their platform, you negotiate access. You don't just show up and start buying. Walmart and Target are taking a different approach, though. They're experimenting with partnerships instead of lawsuits. But Amazon's the marketplace that matters most to this community, and their position is unambiguous, to say the least. The broader question is whether AI agents will eventually change how buyers find and purchase products on Amazon, and whether that changes what matters in your listing, right? If a bot is comparing products algorithmically instead of a human scanning images and bullet points, does your main image still matter the same way? That's an important question. Does A+ content still matter? We're not there yet, but it's maybe something that we're going to have to consider down the line. But the takeaway is pretty simple, right? Amazon's protecting its ad ecosystem, and that's good for us ultimately. But the fight over who controls the shopping experience is just getting started. And it'll be interesting to watch. That's for sure. So let's see. Still caught up on questions. Otherwise, I will keep going. Yep. All right. Prime Day. Did you guys hear about this? Amazon might move Prime Day to June. Bloomberg's reporting that Amazon is planning to move Prime Day from now. It's currently mid-July. They're thinking about moving it to June this year. It's not officially confirmed, but sourcing is solid enough to start planning around. We should talk about why it matters. Believe it or not, these things are serious revenue generators, right? Prime Day has become a 4-day event at this point, and Amazon has been willing to move it around before. The original Prime Day was in July. They shifted it, expanded it, added a second one in the fall. So June move, it's not necessarily radical, but the timing of this particular shift tells you something about what Amazon is watching. There are 2 theories floating around regarding the move. The first is back to school. Parents are front-loading school shopping earlier every year, and Amazon wants to capture that spend before Walmart and Target get their hands on it. The second is competitive separation. Walmart and Target have been running their own sale events on top of Prime Day for years now, kind of piggybacking Prime Day. And Amazon may be trying to create some daylight by picking a date the competitors aren't ready for. Maybe trying to catch them off guard a little bit. Neither of those might be the full picture, though. Here's a theory what I think might be actually going on. July is basically a dead month for retail, right? Historically, it's one of the slowest on the calendar. That's why Amazon put Prime Day there in the first place. That's why pizza shops run specials on Mondays and Wednesdays. They're trying to juice the slower days. It's trying to manufacture demand where there isn't any. And it worked. The problem is it worked so well that Walmart and Target piled on, and now mid-July is a crowded promotional window where every retailer is fighting for the same wallet. Amazon created the event and then watched its competitors draft off of their traffic. Moving to June lets Amazon get ahead of the summer vacation spend. Once families start traveling, discretionary retail dollars compete with gas, hotels, amusement parks. June, especially early to mid-June, catches people before they check out mentally for the summer. And there's graduation and wedding spending window in June that puts consumers in a buying mindset already, potentially. A consultant named Kevin Fu made a point on LinkedIn that's worth paying attention to. He says moving Prime Day to June aligns it with China's 618 or 618 shopping festival, which that's one of the biggest e-commerce events in Asia. If you're sourcing carefully from Chinese suppliers, having Prime Day and 618 overlap means you can consolidate your inventory planning. PL, this may apply more to PL, right? Consolidate the inventory planning, discount strategy, and marketing spend into one window instead of stretching that across June and July if you're in both markets. Operationally efficient. But the more practical stuff, inventory timing changes, of course. If Prime Day moves up by roughly 3 to 4 weeks, your inbound shipment deadlines take advantage of the sale move up also. Amazon's FBA cutoff dates for Prime Day inventory are typically 2 to 3 weeks before the event. That means you'd need inventory checked in by late May or very early June at the latest. Lightning deal coupon submissions would also move up. Amazon usually opens up the Prime Day deal portal about 6 to 8 weeks before the event. So if we're talking about a late June Prime Day, that portal could open in May. And that's right around the corner, actually. PPC budgets would shift as well. Prime Day is one of the highest traffic, highest CPC windows of the year. So if you normally ramp up ad spend in the first 2 weeks of July, that whole calendar slides forward as well. Sourcing angle, if you do retail or online arbitrage, Prime Day creates opportunities on both sides. You can sell into Prime Day demand on Amazon, and you can source deals from competitors running counter programming sales. So knowing the timing a few weeks early gives you a head start on identifying which categories are likely to see promotional pricing from Target, Walmart, and all the other big box stores. So competitors will follow. They always do, but they'll be a step behind if Amazon moves first and fast. So bottom line, the date change isn't the only story. stories that Prime Day prep just accelerated and everything that goes along with taking advantage of Prime Day. It's kind of something maybe we should plan for it to happen prior to an official announcement, even if it doesn't change, probably it doesn't cost us too much to do that preparation early. And then if they do announce it and try to sneak it in, you'll be there to take advantage. So. Dank Melon, so with the prep center, do we have to make them an Amazon account or do they ship on our behalf? That depends. You'll have to, most likely you have to grant them access to your Amazon account. They're all going to do it a little bit differently, right? I have my New Hampshire prep center. I actually build the batches in Inventory Lab, and then I just let them know once it's done, and then they go in, they use the access to my account, and they go in and the box contents are turned off, but then they'll take the inventory and pull it and pack it and then finish the shipment from there. Some prep centers will jump in and do it for you. Some prep centers don't need access at all. So it's going to be a case-by-case basis. So that's one of the things you'll want to ask them about when you start interviewing companies. Amazon Con Juan, by when do you like to have your inventory sent into Amazon to have it ready for Prime Day in Q4? Amazon gives you those deadlines, right? Like I mentioned, typically 2 to 3 weeks prior to is the cutoff for Prime Day. And then Amazon will flat out tell you the recommended date to have stuff in for Q4 fulfillment. So you want to pay attention to the communications from them. Okay, so Luke's Proven Prep doesn't even log into his Seller Central. They pay for ship-only account. For me, with Scan Power, do all their work on there. Yep, definitely depends on the prep center. So, all right, so we'll skip the tax refund thing. No, we're not interested in that. We're an hour in already. Already talked about AI. We can skip. 71% of consumers are using AI. Tease that, but we'll push that piece of news. A dozen states now, this is another piece of news a dozen states want to ban what they call surveillance pricing. They're considering legislation to ban or regulate what's being called as surveillance pricing. That's the practice where, usually using AI, personal data and algorithms, they charge different customers different prices for the same product. Amazon or Walmart's rolling out those digital price tags that they can actually change. Pennsylvania just introduced a bill that would ban changing prices on essential goods more than once in a 24-hour period. New York already passed a law requiring disclosure when algorithms use your personal data to set a price. State list, who are the 12? Arizona, Florida, Hawaii, Illinois, Kentucky, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Vermont, Virginia, and Washington. Right, so that's a full dozen. So it's not necessarily just fringe conversation anymore, right? This is actual moving through legislatures. So we talked about this. It's been a little while when we talked about Walmart talking about it, and we kind of, at the time, we kind of posited that maybe there were opportunities, maybe the night owls who go to Walmart late at night, may get cheaper pricing because the demand's lower. There was a positive and negative when we talked about it the first time. But yeah, so let's start with what surveillance pricing actually is. Let me explain this. At its core, it's showing different prices to different people based on data about them. either their location, their browsing history, if they can get access to that, their income level, how much battery life is left on their phone, what they bought before. This is real intrusive at its worst iteration. Online, this has been happening for years, though, right? Uber charges more when your battery's low. Instacart was recently caught using AI to test how much individual customers would pay for groceries, with some people paying up to 23% more for the same items. Brick and mortar, concern is centered around digital shelf labels, like I mentioned. Those are electronic price tags that can be updated remotely and instantly. Walmart has these in 2,300 stores, and they plan to have them in every location by the end of this year. To their credit, Walmart has explicitly said that their prices are the same for all customers in a given store, regardless of demand, time of day, or who's shopping. Okay. Wink, wink. I don't know. But the technology enables individualized pricing, and that's what legislators are worried about. What's relevant to us, the part of it, Amazon already does this dynamic pricing, right? It's not surveillance pricing in the creepiest sense. They're not, as far as we know, charging you $24.99 and charging your neighbor $29.99 for the same product at the same moment. But Amazon's algorithm adjusts prices on its own products constantly based on demand, competitor pricing, inventory levels, time of day, fulfillment areas. Amazon's buy box algorithm considers price as a primary factor, which means that the pricing dynamics on the platform are already heavily algorithmic. If surveillance pricing legislation starts passing at the state level, we have to wonder what could happen that affects us. First, marketplace transparency requirements could expand. New York's law already requires disclosure when an algorithm uses your personal data to set a price. If that model spreads, Amazon could be required to disclose more about how the buy box algorithm works. Sounds like a positive. They'd have to disclose how pricing suggestions are generated, how sponsored products pricing interacts with organic ranking. That could actually all benefit us by forcing more transparency into a system that's essentially a black box. Second, if dynamic pricing gets restricted at the retail level, it could change the sourcing landscape. One of the reasons retail arbitrage works is that brick and mortar stores run clearance, markdowns, and regional pricing variations. If retailers are forced to hold prices stable for longer periods, like Pennsylvania's proposed 24-hour minimum, the markdown cycle could slow down a bit or become more predictable. That can make it easier to plan sourcing runs, but it could also reduce the frequency of deep discounts. Third, we need to think about what this means for our own pricing strategy. Right now, many sellers use repricers that adjust prices multiple times per day based on competitor activity, buy box rotation, etc. If legislation eventually reaches online marketplaces, which is a real possibility, repricers could face new restrictions as well. Not there yet, but the trend line is clear. Legislators aren't comfortable with AI-driven pricing. And online marketplaces are the most obvious place that it happens at scale, which would make them a target, right? The broader pattern here, something we've talked about before, Amazon has been transferring cost and risk to sellers for years. These are through fee increases, policy changes, operational requirements. If surveillance pricing regulation creates new compliance burdens, the question is whether Amazon absorbs those costs themselves, or many here would argue the more likely outcome is that they pass them down to third-party sellers through new rules, restrictions, or fee structures. Based on their track record, take your own guess, right? The consumer advocate quoted in the Gizmodo piece that I pulled this from made a point worth noting. He believes the most extreme versions of individualized pricing aren't imminent, and that public imagination is getting ahead of what's actually going on right now. Let's hope so. It's probably true, right? But the legislation isn't waiting around for dystopia to arrive. It's trying to get ahead of it. And the fact that a dozen states are moving on this simultaneously tells you that the political energy on this is very real. So technology to charge every customer a different price already exists. The question up for debate right now is whether that should be allowed to happen. So, all right. If you got questions, I'm going to go through. I've got a law for you, and that's the last piece that I've prepared for the show. So we'll call this last call for questions. Anything you want to ask or throw out there or discuss, please fire that off now. In the meantime, while I give you time to type, I want to tell you about Boyd's Law of Iteration. This is something I want to talk about. Not necessarily Amazon news, but it's one of the more important concepts in business that nobody really talks about in the seller space. Nobody really talks about any of the laws that we talk about. I think we're pretty much the only ones. Although I did see in another newsletter just recently one of the things that Chris said a couple months ago. So somebody's listening. They didn't give us credit for saying it. That's all right. This comes from a fighter pilot, right? It's a guy named John Boyd, Air Force Colonel, Korean War era. He had this standing bet at the fighter weapons school. And it was if another pilot could get on his tail, he'd reverse their positions within 40 seconds. If he couldn't do it, he'd pay them $40. No one ever collected on the debt. They called him 42nd Boyd. That was his nickname. Here's the part that matters for us. After the Korean War, Boyd started studying why the American F-86 dominated the Soviet MiG-15 in dogfights. The kill ratio was something like 10-1 in favor of the F-86. And on paper, it shouldn't have been that way. The MiG-15 was actually the better aircraft. It could climb higher, it could turn faster. If you looked at the spec sheet, the MiG should have won, but it didn't. And Boyd spent years trying to figure out why. The answer was almost embarrassingly simple. The F-86 had a hydraulic flight stick. The MiG-15 had a manual one. That meant that the American pilot could adjust, change direction, respond to what was happening with slightly less effort on every single movement. Not dramatically less, just slightly less. But in a dogfight, you're making hundreds of those adjustments. And with each one, the MiG pilot got a little more fatigued, a little slower to react, a little further behind in the cycle. The American pilot didn't win because he was better. He won because he could iterate faster. He could observe, decide, and act through more cycles in the same amount of time. Boyd turned this into what people now call the OODA loop, OODA loop. That stands for observe, orient, decide, act. And the core insight became Boyd's law of iteration. In complex systems, speed of iteration beats quality of iteration. Now let's let that land for a second, pun intended. Speed of iteration beats quality of iteration. Let's think about how it applies to what we do every single day. When you're sourcing, if we think of it like a dogfight, not with other sellers specifically, but with the clock, with your own time. You have a finite number of hours, and the question is, how many products can you evaluate in that window? How fast can you cycle through the loop? You see a product, check the data, make the call, move on. You need that loop to be as short as possible. The seller who evaluates 50 leads in an hour and buys 3 is running a faster OODA loop than the seller who spends that same hour deep diving on 5 leads and only buying 1. Even if the deep diver's one pick has a slightly better ROI on paper, the fast iteration seller is going to win over time. More reps, more data, more pattern recognition build up, more opportunities to get lucky, and honestly, fewer chances to fall in love with a bad lead and talk yourself into buying something because it's been so long. You've looked at so many duds, right? The part that really connected with me, Boyd discovered that the MiG pilot didn't lose because he got outfought. He lost because he got out-looped. The plane that could iterate faster won, even though the other plane was technically superior. It's exactly what's happening in this business. The sellers who move fast, who turn inventory quickly, who source at velocity instead of perfection, they're not winning because they're smarter. They're winning because they're running more loops. They're getting more reps through the cycle. Find it, buy it, ship it, sell it. It doesn't get any more simple than that. That's one loop. Do it again and again and again. And every loop teaches you something the previous one didn't. I always say velocity neutralizes competition. You can look up my Twitter. I've got that in there. Now I have a fighter pilot and a 10-to-1 kill ratio to back it up. The other thing Boyd figured out, and this is the part I think that matters for anyone who's newer to this, is that you don't need to be right on every loop. The F-86 pilot wasn't making the perfect decision every time he moved the stick. He was making fast decisions and correcting on the next cycle. The speed of the correction is what matters, not the perfection of the initial move. So if you're sitting there with Keepa open, staring at a product, running the numbers for the third time and asking yourself, but what if you're the MiG pilot with a manual stick? You're burning energy on one cycle that your competition is spending across 5 cycles. Those 5 cycles are each generating real data, not hypothetical data, not spreadsheet data, real market feedback. That makes the 6th cycle smarter. Speed of iteration beats quality of iteration. That's Boyd's law. I didn't come up with it, but I've accidentally been talking about it for years. Speed wins, or win twice, lose once, still wins, right? Peak data energy. I'll take it, Chris. So that's Boyd's law of iteration. I like that one. It was like, it's neat when you find something that's been written about for a long time, and you just kind of like, you realize that that's something you kind of came by organically. It's neat when you discover something, you invent something that somebody else invented long ago, and you just didn't realize it. So stop saying loop. It's all about the loops today. Sunday's about a loop day. So that's what I got. Appreciate it. Yeah, Kevin, that is good, isn't it? Find it, buy it, ship it, sell it. It's like the Bop It commercial, like twist it, poke it, pull it, bop it, right? The Bop It method of selling on Amazon. All right. All right, so we're a little over an hour. That's about it. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Glad I got Twitter figured out this time. Sorry if you missed the Wednesday show. So, but we'll be back at it this Wednesday, semi-weekly. Thank you, sir. Thank you again. Chris Grant will be back. It'll be both of us. The teacher and student dual panel that you got used to for so long will be back as the OA Challenge graduation. Anybody in the OA Challenge, not sure if that's still running or not, but anybody that finished up day 14 of the OA Challenge and tuned into this show, happy graduation tomorrow. Congratulations on getting through the 14 days, which is an absolute fire hose of information. I hope a lot of things are starting to sink in for you. And I hope you're not frustrated by it, right? You have this information, like take advantage of the replays, focus in on a couple things, analyze your own bandwidth. If you can only keep 3 ideas on your front burner at a time, just go with 3 ideas. One of them doesn't work, replace it, and just keep those 3 ideas burning. Think of Boyd's law, as you put what you learned into practice. It's the speed of iteration. It's not the quality, right? You can make mistakes. Chris is going to teach you that you're okay as long as worst case scenario is survivable. There's more inventory. You can make back whatever you lose. So, Becky, we're done for the evening. Yeah. So yeah, any challengers here? Good luck. Hope you get a awesome prize at graduation day. There's always goodies, so make sure you tune in for that. Anybody else? Everybody else, not anybody else, everybody else. Thank you again for hanging out. Come back Wednesday. Let's do this all over again, okay? Till then, have a good one.